Hello, I'm going to teach you how to warp the Inkle loom. This is not a traditional Inkle loom. This is the moon-shaped Inkle loom made by Agnar the Skull Cleaver. So it has special instructions. First of all, I will show you some examples of some other items I have woven on this exact loom. You can start with very few threads and come out with something skinny like this. You can use more threads and come out with something a little thicker like this. This was my very first piece and it's a little lumpy, but it's still pretty. I just used a striped pattern, as you can see. That's something I like to do. I've also used fatter threads and come out with a wider trim like this. This was a type of yarn that had several strands in each piece. I just put it on there until it was pretty wide, about as wide as the peg, and I just started weaving to see how it would come out, and it was really pretty. You never know until you try some yarns, so just have fun with it. I have tried using this gold macrame type yarn. It's a little stretchy. It was really pretty, but it was a very bad idea because it didn't come out evenly. As you can see, it's a mess. I would not advise stretchy thread. A couple of things that you can do are on the Bagatelle website. The Meridian Bagatelle, all you have to do is go out and look. Meridian Majesties, Sovereign's Pleasures. It gives you exactly how many strings of which color to put on your loom, and you just make it until you can't make any more, and you cut it into the lengths that they request, and you're done. You can turn that in as is. Otherwise, the materials I would use are just simply crochet cotton thread like this. This is a size 10 thread, which you buy in these balls. Size 3 is much fatter. It'll work up bigger, but it's really too big for period type use. There are smaller threads that you can crochet with, but I think they're a little small. Size 10 seems to be pretty good. So first of all, with this loom, I'm going to show you what you need. First of all, you're going to need the thread. You're going to need 2 clothespins. You're going to need this. This is the shuttle. We'll get to that later. You can even makeshift with a piece of cardboard if you have to, if it's really sturdy. And you need these heddles. You need these to be a consistent size. I made these myself, which was a little hard. These are 15 inches long, tied in a loop, and they have to be very consistent or it's going to mess up your work. So you just need several of those. If you test it out, just make sure that they're the same size. If some of them are, really long, then it's not going to be good later. So just make up several of those, or you can buy some from some other merchants. I haven't bought any yet, so I can't tell you who, but I'm sure you can find them. The next thing we're going to do is actually take the string and start warping the loom. I'm going to get up so that you can see. This is the movable peg. You need to leave it alone. And this is another peg that you're going to need to leave alone because this is the peg that your heddle is attached to. So first of all, if you take your string, this is where the clothespin comes in handy. You can take this and actually just clip it on, hang it over, and let it hang out. Now you start coming over, under, over, under. Sometimes that's not enough weight. Over, under. Now remember how I said I'm going to leave that peg alone. I'm going to skip over that. The first time you come down, there's 2 patterns to warping. Here's the second one. We're going to go again. We're just going to go over, under, over, under, over, under. This time I'm going to come up and over this peg, and when I go up and over, I take one of my heddles and wrap around that pole right there. That little peg. I said you leave this one alone. I was wrong about that. Sorry. You actually have to put some thread on that one. The other thing that you really need to make sure of before you put your thread is that it's not all the way down here, but all the way down here, so that it is nice and tight. Now when you're weaving, you actually can take this and loosen it up. So it needs to be as tight as it can go. It's very important that you tighten it down. You can see how much of a difference that made. Now I'm going to put that back on. And that's it. Now we're just going to go through those two patterns. So it's a little harder to do that when that's there. Did that so you could see. Now we're going to go down, and we're not going to put a heddle. Now we're going to go again. And we're going to go up and over, and we're going to put a heddle. I'm just going to put strings on until I run out of heddles. You could put strings on until you had enough for your pattern, which means you might need more heddles than what I've got here. Whenever you have gotten the amount of string you want, you're just going to take the two ends and tie them together down here about as tight as you can. I don't mean like so tight it won't move, but you know, get it down, just tie them together. Because eventually you're going to work on this, and you'll loosen this up, pull the strings down until you've worked all the threads. So eventually when you take all the thread off and it's been worked, it's going to look something like this, and you'll have about 3 feet of trim woven. And that's it. I just usually will tie a knot off at the end, at each end, just so that it's, you know, not going to fall apart on me. And that's it. I'll go ahead and put a few more strings on so that you can keep getting a feel for how it works. You just shove them back. They're going to stay in order. Now, if I've forgotten what I did last time, all I've got to do is look and say, oh look, last time I went up and over, so this time I just come down. If you set it down and walk away, you can always find your place again. I think that warping the loom is the part that takes the most concentration. When you start weaving, it's just back and forth, back and forth. You're really only limited by the size of loom and how much trim you can make. There are floor looms that let you weave tons and tons at once. It's a really great time investment. I like this size loom because it, 3 feet doesn't take me too terribly long. I don't lose patience with it. You may find that you want to expand later at some point, or you can simply sew the pieces together if you don't feel like it's quite long enough for what you need. That would be very period to do. You see how I just keep kind of shoving them over and getting them out of my way. I've still got room for a whole lot more thread on here. I'll just keep going. Okay, so let's say I was done. I'm ready to tie these off now. Oops. Well, that's a little bit short. It's okay. I'll just come down here. I'll just tie these off. I'm not going to cut it right now because I'm going to continue to weave some more. You just cut it and tie it right there. And you're done. You've made a continuous loop. I'm actually just going to clip that and leave it for now because I'd like to add a little more to it after I finish this tutorial. The next thing that you need to do, which I mentioned we would come back to, is to thread your shuttle. I've got to find where I put the shuttle. So, hold on one second. Oh, here he is. Sorry about that. So, you take your shuttle, and you take your thread, you throw it in the floor, and you knock your work over. Okay, you don't do that part, but you do take your thread and your shuttle here, and you just wrap it around, Wrap it around, wrap it around, wrap it around until it's really fat. You've got a whole lot of thread. If you run out, you can add some more later. You just tie it on and keep working. You'll have a little bitty knot. Now, let's pretend I had put a whole lot of thread on here and I'm ready to weave. Here's how you weave. You know how I told you just go back and forth and back and forth? Here is the spot where you do that work. This is called the cradle, not the cradle, I've forgotten the term. I apologize. But anyway, this is the area where you work. I'll think of it after I turn the camera off. You shoot this shuttle through. Push the strings down. Push it back through. You can use this to push it down. You can unwind the thread as you need it. Come up. Push these down. And push it back through. You want it to get nice and tight down there so that it's all pretty. Through. Push down. Getting that little triangle right there. Using that flat side to push the strings down so that you've got a nice obvious spot. Pull it through. Pull it down. And if you need to, you can take this, tuck that work down and pull it until it looks pretty. And it may be hard to get it looking really pretty until you get several strings in there, and that's okay. Just work with it. Eventually you want them to get very close together so that when you have finished your work, you can't even tell really where that was in there. If I were to pull this apart, you could see there's a white thread shot between here, but it just disappears when you start working your way through. See, there you are. Down here you can see where my white thread is. It's hard to see in the video, I think. Sorry. You just work your way through. And work your way through. And I think that the wider it is, the easier it is to make it look pretty, because when you've only got a few strings on there, there's just not very much to work with. That's pretty much it. So if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks. Bye.